All right, well, let's jump into week 4. Uh-oh, we don't have images. Give me a second. Silly goose. Let's try that one more time. There we go. Okay, so we'll just check in on last week, and I wanted to give, well, I'll get to it when we get there. And then what we're going to spend most of our time doing today is there's a like 6-step equation that we'll use, and we have a spreadsheet for this in our folder. And so we'll pull that out and we'll go through each of those 6 steps. And for some of us, this is going to be just like more of an intellectual exercise because you might not have all the pieces together yet to like put these numbers in. But for other folks, hopefully we can actually like come up with a specific number that you could start working towards paying yourself. And then we'll go over any questions. And I have one specific request of you as we leave today, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And so we'll go from there and, talk about anything else you guys want to talk about. So just a couple announcements. I did get an email the other day, someone requesting, how many folks are in Vermont? Wendy, you're in Vermont. Lori, you're in Vermont. Carrie, are you in Vermont? Like, let me pull up. No, you're in Ohio. Okay. Just for my Vermont folks, and I think both of you, Wendy and Lori, you already know about this. So I'll just pop over that. But VSAC still does have funds for the remainder of the year, and so they're still looking to hand out those grants. There is, I mentioned this a little while ago, but if you haven't signed up for it yet and you were hoping to, the seats are starting to go pretty quickly. For this workshop, I'll just put it in the chat. This is November 5th, so next week, right? That's next week. This is we'll talk about like writing engaging holiday emails. And so I'm going to help you figure out anywhere from like a 5 to 10 email sequence. This could be towards like for business owners, and this could be like B2C, like you're writing to individual clients. For folks like Wendy, this could be figuring out how you want to approach like outside funding. It could be like kind of almost like a series of networking emails that you're preparing for the holidays. Or it could be like I have one person who will be doing this um, looking for like individual donations. She'll be writing the emails that way of like, because the Thanksgiving, Christmas holiday season tends to be like a big push for a lot of nonprofits for getting donations. So we can write it that way. So really like whatever the business model is, we can come up with a series of emails that make sense to write. And then November 7th is my monthly office hours, and we're going to be dedicating that one specifically to sales. I think I mentioned this last time. So just giving you that reminder. I think it's a little more than halfway filled. So if you're hoping to do that, probably get yourself in there. And then I'm going to talk about this a little bit more at the end, but I want to grab this. I put together a really short survey that I'm going to put in the chat here. And it would be so incredibly helpful if you could fill it out after completing today. I have been so fortunate to find folks to fund my work, to be able to offer work to you all for free, like this series. And it would be so incredibly helpful to just hear like what else you would like. I have a lot of freedom with this, and I can create pretty much anything I want. But I also only have like one brain, and and so it would be like helpful to hear from other folks of like, where are you getting stuck? What else do you need help with? In a perfect situation, if I could just give you anything, what would that be? Kind of questions. And then there's a couple like demographic questions just to see like what are the correlations between like where you're at in business, whether it's like how long you've been doing business or how much money you're making, and what your requests are. I'm trying to figure that out a little bit of like Do most people that make under 50K in their first year ask for these requests, if that makes sense? None of the questions are required. So if there's anything that you're like, I don't want to answer that, that's totally fine. But that would be incredibly helpful if you can take, I'm hoping it doesn't take you more than like 5 minutes to fill out. That would be so helpful. Okay. Any question on any of those? All right. Alrighty. Here we go.
I'll just put a plug in for
Yeah.
the VSAC thing. I know it's only a couple of us, but it's not a cumbersome process at all.
Yeah.
And if you've been doing all your budget stuff in this class and getting things organized anyhow, it was pretty
Yeah.
easy for me to do.
Yeah.
And they're responsive. You'll have a response in like a week. So
Yeah. I appreciate how painless their grant application process is, as I'm sure Wendy can attest to. Some grants are like such a beast to apply for. This one is very simple. It's really just like, what are your financials? Yes or no. It's not, you don't have to like write a whole narrative about it, which is really helpful. Yeah. And then for other folks that are outside of Vermont, if you're like, I would really love to get some help and I can't apply for this grant, I will sit down with you. I can give you a 30-minute phone call to sit down with you and try to find grants for you, like the grant that's here. I've had success with folks in Minnesota and in California and in New Jersey finding those types of programs. So if that's something that would be helpful to you, let me know. And then I also offer sliding scale. So if you're like, I can't, none of those things are going to work, we can still come up with a solution as well. So just know that's there too. Um, right. So let's talk about how to pay ourselves. Here we go. Week 4. So I wanted to offer the opportunity for anyone to share their budget today. I can stop the recording. We don't have to like document it. I know this is like a very vulnerable, scary thing to do, but I also think like if we think about collective knowledge building, if we think about confidence building, this can be a really awesome thing to try out, is like to just kind of walk us through the budget you built and what you learned from it. Would anyone feel like they would like to try and do that? Even if it's not done, even if it's not finished, even if
Sure.
there's holes. Okay, cool. Let's do
I'm
it, Rose.
happy
All right.
to.
Let me give you sharing. Do you know how to share your screen?
I think so. Um,
All right. Go ahead whenever you're ready. Hi, Abby. Sorry, I didn't see you come in there.
Sorry, my camera is off.
No, you're fine. Don't ever apologize for having your camera off with me. Never a problem.
Oh, thanks. My tummy is spinning, so I'm just hanging in there.
I feel you. I think you missed it, but at the beginning we had a little check-in about how people are feeling emotionally leading up to the election. I don't know if that's why your stomach is spinning, but um yeah.
We'll add that to it too. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're like, there's a lot of reasons one could be feeling ill right now. Yeah. All right, take it away, Rose.
um, yeah, so I put in
Right now, I'm not seeing your budget itself. I'm just seeing your Google Drive. Is that what you're trying to show us?
no.
I'm like, I
Ah,
think we're on the wrong tab somehow.
okay. Um, did that work?
Yes, it did. Do you
Okay,
mind making your screen full screen?
like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Perfect.
Um,
Makes it a little bigger.
so yeah, I think I didn't put any employment expenses because
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I went down to operations and yeah, so I at the end of the year for therapists, you renew your license for the year. So I
Mm-hmm.
put it in
Smart.
December you can spread it. Like they did say you could do like a monthly pay here, here, and here's. So I might
Oh,
spread
okay.
later. But
Yep.
for now, that's where I put it. And then also you have to renew your insurance at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not required of me, but I, as a new therapist, would like to have a supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I budgeted to see her once a month. I don't know why this one
I
says.
was like that. Just saw that. I was like, that one doesn't sound fun.
Um, and I also am working with a mentor who I pay $60 per session, and I was hoping to see him twice a month.
Nice.
So that's on every month. Though, I might miss a week or something, and that could
Mm-hmm.
go down, or maybe I see him extra if I have a lot more clients.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have been like doing a lot of research on marketing, and like there's so many different stories about people having success with different platforms, which is a bit stressful.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
Counseling BC does like a annual fee versus Psychology Today. You can do like a monthly.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody suggested I advertise through Reddit or
Mm.
also Meta. Somebody said they
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of success advertising through Meta, but I
Mm-hmm.
have conflicting feelings. Like
Yeah,
I mind Reddit, but like Meta, I have like conflicting feelings about whether or not I want to
totally.
include. So I guess I
Yep.
didn't include it. And then my domain is $12 a year. I just for some reason spread it out, even though I do
Yeah,
pay an annual fee.
that's okay. That's a
And
cheap ass domain. Where's your website hosted?
it's hosted by WordPress.
Oh, do you have that in here?
Uh, what do you mean?
Like your fee for how much do you pay for WordPress?
$12 a year.
That's your website and your domain?
Yeah, I think so. Like I built my website myself. Um,
WordPress is free. Oh, I didn't know that, Lori.
I'm using a free version
Fascinating.
of it. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
And then
Yeah, go ahead. So
I
what's this
put
one?
my rent as an expense because I'm going to be working from home, but
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
that's it.
Do you
Cool.
need to pay for software or anything for clinical notes and
I want to try to I think it seems like what people do is like they start out with like free like I would do all my own scheduling at first because I'm just not going to have that many clients, so I won't use
Mm-hmm.
any scheduling software. And I was looking into how to like lock files on my computer for free so that my notes are protected
Mm,
and meet cybersecurity standards. And then I use a free encrypted video platform that I learned about when I did a volunteer counseling. So I don't actually pay.
hmm.
So yeah, so right now I think I figured out a way to make
Smart.
it free.
I love this.
Yeah.
Any other feedback or questions from the group? Anything you feel like Rose might be missing or
does your office rental include all of your utilities and internet, and is that bundled, or are those expenses that aren't showing yet?
There are expenses that aren't showing up because we actually haven't paid our first water or electric bill yet because we just moved in, so I don't
Okay.
actually know what they are.
and you said this is your apartment that you're working out of, or this is a rental space like for therapy?
It's my apartment that I will be
Okay.
working.
And so
So
you'll probably want to, in order to deduct rent, you'll have to deduct an office space. You won't be able to deduct your entire rent.
okay.
So, and the way they classify that, at least the way it's been explained to me, is you have to have a room that is like technically exclusively for working. So, like, for instance, when I lived in New Jersey, we had a one bedroom apartment and I worked out of the kitchen and I couldn't deduct that because the kitchen is like a multi-use space. So I totally like fudged that and turned my dining room into, I was like, we don't eat here. And I like turned that into an office. I mean, it's like you can kind of work. I mean, I'm sure an accountant wouldn't love me saying these things, but I think you can like, you can get creative. Now we use like this. We actually we actually deduct a room in the basement as our office now. And so even though I rarely sit down there, I like to sit up here where there are windows. So you'll just want to figure out like there's some calculations, and I'm sure we can collectively help you find them, but there's calculations for like the square footage
was just gonna ask that.
of
Yeah.
the space. And then there's, I think it's like a percentage of your water, a percentage of your gas, a percentage of your electricity. So it won't be the entire thing.
Okay.
So you'll just want to kind of look into that a little bit too.
I'm gonna
There
write
is,
that in my
are you in
notes.
one of the states that, did y'all hear about the bill that made it through, I think through the Senate about getting free, like free help with your taxes? They're like piloting a couple states. They're trying to essentially get rid of things like TurboTax and like stuff like that.
Oh,
Like they're saying like it should be, it's like a human right to be able to file your taxes for free. You shouldn't have to pay to do that or not understand how to do that. And so they're piloting, AOC was a big part of that. And so they're piloting a program in certain states. So you could look and see if you're one of the states being piloted, because it would be cool to like be able to work with, like get help doing this without having to pay for it. The other thing I always recommend is like Googling like small business help for women, and then like either your county or your state, or if you're in a city, your city. You can often find like your local SBDC. Yeah, like for Vermonters, we've got CBOEO, SBDC. There's like so many freaking acronyms, but this is Small Business Development Center. Every single state, I believe, has an SBDC. And so you can start there too and just see like what resources are there for you for free. And then any like quote like minority identities you hold, whether that's like your race or your gender or any of those, you can kind of like stack those identities, I've found, to like get more help. And so you can explore that too.
I like that idea of looking locally. My fear is that I'm in this like weird like place where my business is Canadian, even though I'm physically here. And so like, should I be looking into resources like where I'm physically or where my business?
I would
Oh,
look I would look where you are physically, and then you can hopefully find like, so for instance here at what would be really great is trying to find a local law school and see if they offer any pro bono services. So here we have Vermont Law School, and they have a grant program that you can get up to 10 hours of free legal aid. Like you can like work with an attorney, like they'll write contracts for you, they'll do all sorts of stuff for free. So what I would do is look at if there are any local law schools like within reach, or like at least within email reach, and see if they do any pro bono services, because their students often need to do like complete certain amount of hours of legal education, which is different than legal counsel. So they're like not telling you what to do, but they're educating you on options of what you have. And that would be a really good question for them, is like, do I need to like, I think it's the term is like domesticate. Do I need to domesticate my LLC here in the States for any reason? Like what are the limitations to having the business set up the way I have it set up? And when would I know when I want to move that? Like, are you intending on going back to Canada? No. Yeah. So my guess is you're probably going to want to eventually like establish an LLC here. Um, but that would be a really good question for them too.
that's a great idea. really
Yeah.
excited. I would have never thought of that.
I'm very good at finding ways to get free shit. So anytime you're like, I think I have this need, just come ask me and I'll be like, let's find it for free. Because a lot of the time it's possible. Oh, you're on mute. Or wait, for some reason I can't hear you.
Sorry, my
Oh,
microphone it's
oh,
as well as Zoom. So, um, when you were saying that you could help us find grants, like, is that something you could help me, even though my situation is complicated and it may be, yeah, is that
I would start with try to find a legal person to speak to about the status of your business. Let's cross that bridge first and see like, does that limit you from accessing resources at all? My guess is not. Like any resource I've used, well, that's not true. There's like a couple of grants that I've applied for that I had to have like either Vermont residency or yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on like what the free thing is. So I would start with the legal and then circle back with me once you have an answer on that, and then we'll go from there and we can start to um look at other options. Yeah,
yeah.
totally. Wendy also put something in the chat. Vita is actually a national program. Here is more information about tax filing assistance if you make less than 67K. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's CVOEOs who runs it in the state of Vermont, but it's a
Okay,
national thing. So it's tax prep assistance for elderly and people that make less than 67,000. So
cool.
that was the IRS page, and you'll have to find the resource in your community that implements it. But
Cool. That's good to know.
Thank
All
you.
right. Does anyone else want to share their budget? Maybe one more? One more brave soul. Also, round of applause for Rose. Good job, Rose. Way to be brave. I'm like, Wendy, you want to give us a tour of your wildly complicated finances?
I would be happy to, except I have multiple different forms and I'm not merged into your format. I can show you like my big honkin' master budget that doesn't quite track to
Sure.
your system if you want.
That's okay. Yeah.
Um,
Paint us a little narrative of how it's going.
Let me find the right one. I have so many spreadsheets. Okay. Oh, hang on, I
Did you
gotta.
get to connect with Patrick?
Yeah, we had an intake consultation and he's gonna dig into stuff at the end of the month with me when I can focus.
Oh, great. Love
Okay.
that.
Um,
Isn't he cute? I think he's just adorable. I think he's so adorable.
yeah.
I love him. He's
Okay.
so cute.
So, um, um, sorry, my brain is fritzing on how to screen share for a second. Okay,
Oh,
sure.
that's okay.
Let's do this one. Um, you guys are out of the way. So this is a beast of a budget, and this is
Yeah.
me trying to capture every single cost. I've started the
Hmm.
other one, but it's not fully converted yet.
Hmm.
So, um, for labor and personnel, I have a pretty aspirational budget. I'm nowhere near this right now. Um, but I'm billing out full time at an hourly rate. And then for fringe, I have to account for health insurance, dental insurance. I just added in the Roth IRA and childcare because I want to be contributing to that, and I got that when I was
Hmm.
previously employed.
Yep.
Um, so I'm going to do some creative full cost accounting to bundle that up into my rate and just bill that against my
Yeah,
rate.
that's smart.
Um, So before I go further down, I've gotten a couple other pots of money that I'm tracking against, and I'm tracking what I still need to fundraise or create a fee for service against
Mm.
my goal. So salary and benefits are aspirational right now.
Hmm.
Um, and then I have an array of professional services that as I get going and ramp, I would like to engage to create a marketing plan, to write memorandums of understanding, to redo my webpage, to deal with my tax filings, stuff of that nature. So these are all services I hope to engage, but aren't an actual expense just yet.
Hmm.
But some of these I did get some coverage for under a BBF grant I got. So that those funds are available when I'm ready. Um, Insurance, I don't currently carry liability insurance, and I
Hmm.
really probably need to as a professional, but also some of my work deals with baby equipment and I manage
Mm.
volunteers.
Mm.
So I got some quotes for what that looks like of something to professionalize my service, but also to protect me in the future. Um, the taxes and fees, I have to re-register with the state, so I have that in there. These other things, I don't know if there's much I need to do. Personal income tax was basically explained to me that self-employment tax, it's a 15% rate for yourself, and
Hmm.
then another 15% gets added on to cover your Medicare and Social Security benefits. So basically, you're looking at a 30% rate, and I'm not quite sure how to reflect that as a known expense coming out against everything else, but
Hmm.
there's a line
Hmm.
for it. Um,
And we'll talk about that in just a sec. We'll talk about like
Awesome.
saving for taxes. Yeah.
Um, Places where money seeps out is various fees. Again, not all
Mm.
of these are engaged yet, but there is space to get fees. Right now, I've been mostly crowdsourcing, so GoFundMe's stealing money from me, and
Hmm.
that's the only thing that's coming out as of right now.
Hmm.
Um, Client recruitment to your coffee budget, it adds up fast. But
It does.
I thought I should budget meeting with clients
I think that's smart. Yeah.
couple times a week, so that's in there. Facilities is my physical space. So that's locked in, and I've got some coverage against these other grants over here. Utilities is just kind of an average. Don't yet know how to incorporate those for home office, but they're
Hmm.
included. And heat's a little high. I just ran higher numbers. I overestimated rather than underestimating, and then I have a
Sure.
pipeline by month. Transportation, right now it's just personal mileage reimbursement, but I
Smart.
may ultimately have a truck and truck insurance.
Mm.
Marketing communications, all kinds of different mechanisms, business cards, photocopying, web page subscription, like that's about to renew. Equipment technology, hardware that I functionally need to keep the business running. A lot of this stuff I'm just running under personal cost or I'm sneaking into the office arrangement that I have, but I'm trying to
Hmm.
really extrapolate out far. Computers
Hmm.
and software, I have a whole bunch of subscriptions that keep me running and floating. So like my domains are
Same.
20, but my web page is it's actually going to be 192, but this was an earlier estimate for 288.
Hmm.
Um, Membership and dues, professional affiliation organizations that I've been a part of in the past, but I've dropped. Those are in there. These costs are actually, these need to be rolled up as just miscellaneous expenses. These are specific program expenses, but I did get funding
Mm.
for them. Um,
Okay.
so you get to the bottom and there's total funds yet to fundraise if I have my most ideal budget. So that's a fairly hefty lift. I don't remember what
Hmm.
my buffer was. So I think I just put a percentage on it to account for costs that I've not estimated well. And
Mm.
then I can show you this one. I started your thing, but it's not complete.
Yeah.
So this is
Yep.
the grant money that is in hand, splitting that out. I have a grant from the solid waste that will have two disbursements, so it's split out that
Nice.
way.
Why isn't
Um,
it capturing that in the total?
where are you saying that's not capturing
On
it?
the blue column,
Oh,
O.
oh,
There we go.
there we go. I put in right now. I haven't raised other monies, but those are the possibilities are in there, and I'll break out grants as they come in.
Hmm.
I haven't dealt with bank stuff. Expenses, I'm rolling up expenses from that bigger one and putting them in here
Hmm.
by month.
Hmm.
But I haven't quite finished that process. And these categories aren't super applicable to me, so I'll have to change those.
Hmm.
Um, and then it starts to generate
Cool.
the summary page. But I haven't integrated all the other numbers into this, but
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I do have a sense of that. I guess I will show, sorry, if Emily, is there time?
Yeah.
Back
Go
to
for it.
my bigger sheet. Sorry, where did that just go? Nope, not that one. Not that one. Okay, I don't know where it disappeared into those,
Oh,
but
I think it's your other
on,
tab right there
oh, yeah,
in this
thank you.
window. Yeah.
That's helpful and obvious. So then I have specific project budgets, which are pulling
Mm. Hmm.
percentages of the bigger budget. Um,
Hmm.
and then uh, yeah, I have a lot of things that I have to merge is my problem.
Yeah.
What I'm
Yeah.
trying to show you is this one. So I'm running like actual expenses in a spreadsheet right now and where they've been paid out of. And then I have a pipeline. So
Mm.
at the end of the month, I go in and I input by category against projections, and then I overwrite the projections. So like, what's a good example? Facilities, I only have 300 budgeted for the year. I burned through 250 of that with an event, but I'm not going to have
Mm.
another charge until April. And so I can kind of watch what's happening with
Hmm.
that. And then my separate grant budgets and separate, yeah. So, and my funding sources and like available grants. So this is very dense for most of your purposes, but I'm trying
Yeah.
to really identify every single cost and then map out monthly projections and then be vigilant about going back and updating my actual numbers and overriding my projections so I know where I am. So
Amazing. You're doing a really good job. That was a lot. That was
it's
probably
dense.
like
I
the
needed it
most
into the
complicated.
good
I was
template.
like, yeah, no, this is great. You're doing a really good job. That's a lot of information to be holding at once. And yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
thank you.
Applause. Yeah, thanks for sharing with us too. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah. All right, let's come back here. And all right, we'll come through here. Okay, so is anyone currently paying yourself? Show of hands.
As of
Joanne's
this
like,
month.
sometimes. Yeah, as of this month. Woohoo. Um, and in the past, for folks that have paid themselves, how did you decide how much to pay yourself? Was it kind of like just kind of a gut feeling? You were like, this seems safe. I'm gonna take this. Did you do any sort of calculation? Go for it, Carrie.
So I used to just do occasional owner draws.
Hmm.
And I briefly had a other veterinarian working for me.
Hmm.
And um, I have an assistant, so she's a W-2 employee.
Hmm.
So I paid her, and then when I had the veterinarian working for me, I decided I should actually pay myself as well. So I used
Yes.
the same model that I was using for her. So it was a percentage
Okay.
of services or a percentage of products. They were
Yep.
different rates. And she is no longer there, but I still have kept myself on every 2-week payroll. I just
Good
pay myself
job, Carrie.
less than what I was doing then, based on some advice from my CPA telling me that you kind of want to get that as low as possible, because I'm an S corp now and not an LLC.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
There was a
Great.
difference there of where I want my money and how I want to pay myself, but
Hmm.
it was a huge thing for me. I mean, it was easy once I had an assistant and I had somebody else on payroll because I could just add
Sure.
myself. That made that
Yep.
jump a lot easier.
Yep.
Um, definitely was nice because owner draws, it was so sporadic. It was like, oh, look, there's money in the bank account. I'll take some of that.
I'll
Thanks.
take some. Yeah.
But
That's how I operated for a long time. Yeah.
not a well planned out or thought out system.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I appreciate you sharing that, Carrie. And cool to know that you're a veterinarian. I've had a previous client who was a veterinarian who specialized in at home dying. And
Oh yeah.
I like learned so much about y'all's field. It was great. Here, at least in Vermont, I don't know how it is in Ohio. We have like a major shortage of like veterinarians. There's like, she's been trying to hire for probably over a year and
Yeah,
she has
it's
not found
nationwide.
anyone.
It's
Okay.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
profession's kind of in crisis. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's been an
Stressful.
interesting, social media hasn't helped us, and it's just a weird, I mean, the whole country's in a weird place, and um
True that.
it's a hard job, and you get kind of thrown under the bus for everything, and people don't
Mm,
like paying for their pets. Like
yes.
they don't they you know, it's that concept of like we love dogs and cats and we should just do it all. And um
Yeah. You should just treat them out of the goodness of your heart,
yeah.
Carrie. God, you
So it's hard,
selfish
I don't know,
human.
it's a hard place, but
Yeah.
I actually don't do any normal vet stuff anymore. I do
Okay.
acupuncture and chiropractic and alternative
Oh,
things.
nice.
It
Nice.
is very good for my soul. So
I love that. Sweet. So similar to what Carrie said, I used to just do owner draws. I also went through a period where I just kind of like paid myself everything. I was just like, I'm just gonna take all the money. Like what yeah, that seems, and I think in the beginning, especially, like speaking to folks like Rose and possibly to Lori, like there's a really very real need in the beginning of like any money that's coming in, I need to use. Like I have bills to pay. And so I got to just like take that money and use it. Eventually, we hopefully get to a place where we're distributing. Has anyone heard of like the envelope method? This is for personal finances. It's like you put like you get paid your paycheck. This is like for folks that work for other people predominantly, but could be applied here. You like get paid, and so then you like have all these physical envelopes, and you like put a certain percentage of that money into each envelope in cash. It's kind of a interesting method for nowadays where nothing is paid for in cash, but it's the same idea with our in our business. It's like every time money comes in, I just did this right now while I was depositing two checks. I take a percentage of those checks and I move them over to my savings, right? And so like we want to get to a place where we're kind of distributing the funds into different buckets. But in the beginning, like I think it's super legit. Um, I love that, Lori. Lori said that's the method my stepdad taught me when I was in high school. Yeah. It's actually the method my sister still uses today. She's like hates credit cards and hates all like virtual payment and is like loves cash. It's kind of funny. Um, so yeah, eventually we want to get to a place where like you're getting the reward of a steady paycheck. We're also saving for some things and like we're not necessarily we're not necessarily just like pulling all the money or not pulling any money. I've seen that too with clients sometimes. It's like they all of a sudden I'm like, all right, let's look at your finances. And I'm like, there's $50,000 sitting in your bank account. And I'm like, and your personal bank account has no money in it. And I'm like, hold on, like you earned that money. We need to start paying you. And but there can be this like paralysis analysis feeling of like, but how much did like what if I just accidentally drain the entire account and then what's going to happen, right? And so like we don't want that to happen either. So we want to have a plan for how we do this. And I think like figuring out how much to pay yourself is like such a tricky equation for a lot of us. And so we'll divvy that. We'll kind of dive into that a little bit. Um, I think like the one of the things here on like figuring out how to divvy up our money between our business and our personal bank accounts, I can't encourage you enough to get a business bank account if you haven't gotten one yet. Um, I know for me, I waited too long to do this. And then I like got into this space where I like felt really embarrassed that I didn't have one and that I was doing what accountants call co-mingling your assets. This is a big no, no, no. And so what that means is that like you receive money from a client or a customer and it's going into your personal checking account. This puts you at a lot of risk. So if, for instance, that client or customer got mad and decided to sue you, now all of your personal assets are at risk. They can sue you for your house if you own it. They can sue you for a car. They can sue you for anything that is your personal asset. That is super stressful. I think for me, at least, I tend to lean more towards an optimist. And so I was like, that's never going to happen. And I was like, what's the big, like, I'm such a small business owner. Nobody's going to do that. I operate ethically. Nobody's going to get mad at me. And then I love to tell this story, but eventually I had a disgruntled client who was threatening to sue. And I was like, oh, fuck, this is real. Like, I'm a good person and I do good business and this still happened. And it wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. This person was really emotional, really upset for good reason. It had nothing to do with me. But sometimes when we get really upset, like we do weird shit, and we direct it in weird places and like that's okay. Like we make mistakes sometimes and that's what happened. And I had to hire an attorney, I had to hire an accountant. Like it just got really stressful very quickly. And my hope for you is like that we set things up so like that just doesn't ever have to happen. We don't have to worry about that. And so if you haven't set up a business checking account, I can't encourage you enough to try to find a local credit union. It's usually going to be a lot cheaper to set up a business checking account. They'll often have, like our credit unions here, offer free counseling for business and for personal finances. And so, like, that can be a place to get more help for free. But eventually, what we would like is a business checking account and a business savings account. The savings account should be free. You might have to pay a small fee for the checking account. Um, and yay, Wendy. Wendy said she opened one last week and it felt so good to open it. Yes. So we want all of our payments from clients and customers to go directly into that business checking. And then from there, we disperse them, right? So we're either transferring money to our personal checking. For me, I just have an automatic, I'm not an S Corp. So like Carrie is going to use, my guess is Carrie is using some sort of employment software so that like paychecks are getting written and sent. I used to love Gusto. Yay. Yeah, Carrie said Gusto was my favorite. When I had employees, I loved Gusto. I found them so helpful and just like very, very easy to use. But for most of us that are not going to be an S Corp, that are going to continue to be an LLC, what I set up is just an automatic withdrawal. So every 2 weeks, the same amount of money just automatically comes out of my business checking and goes into our joint personal checking, right? So that's a joint account with me and my partner. That's just the way we choose to do finances. And then any money that's left over, if like, for instance, this happened today, I was like, and this is a good exercise too, is like, if you find that you're kind of like sitting on a lot of money in your business checking, hopefully eventually we get there where we're sitting on extra money, it is a good time to run the numbers again and do the equation we're going to do again and see, could I give myself a raise? Like, because we don't need to be just sitting on money, right? If it's like, we want our money to be working for us, whether you're maxing out a retirement fund or you're putting more money into a savings or you're saving for buying a house or whatever, like we want the money to be working and going towards something. We don't want it just sitting there. I'd prefer you like invest it in some way and at least earn some more money on it or give yourself a raise, make your personal finances easier, whatever. But the other option is, and something I've done for a while, is giving myself a bonus. And so like either twice a year or every quarter, or some years it's just been once a year, I look at the finances, crunch the numbers, and I'm like, cool, I can give myself a $3,000 bonus this year. And that's just like a lump sum I'll write myself a check from my business checking account. I write a check to myself, right? And I deposit it into my personal. And that's just kind of like, sweet, I got a bonus. That's awesome, right? And that can feel nice too. Any questions about like that flow? Does that make sense? why we do that, why we want to do that, Rose?
So I'm sure there's, yeah, so like tax wise, when you're, is there like, what does that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll talk about taxes too. Let's get out the worksheet. So if you have the folder and you want to do this on your own, you can, but otherwise I'm just going to throw the link to this specific spreadsheet in. And so you'll just make I think I'm just going to actually move us out of here and just move us over to this sheet.
Emily,
Mm-hmm.
this might be a later question or different context question, but one thing that happened with me with paying myself was I crammed in a rate to fit a pre-existing budget for the grant after I deducted out all of my operating costs. I'm like, okay, how much can I squeak out and how much can I make my rate be and pay myself as
Mm-hmm.
much as possible, but still kind of undervaluing my services.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my question, I think, is how can you get away with having a variable rate for different programs or clients that more captures where you need to be when you've potentially already built out a lower rate that you're trying to squeeze into some sort of budget or grant, or does that make sense?
No, ask your question again.
So stated differently, like in the grant that I just got, I only billed 10 hours at
Mm-hmm.
10 hours a week at $40 an hour, which is
Mm-hmm.
below what my rate should be, and it's not my full work week of what I'm putting into it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get future
And
clients,
why did you do that?
because I had to bill out some programmatic expenses against the grant. And so after
Oh,
my
they wouldn't let you just bill for hourly rate, is what you're saying? Like you had to.
I couldn't squeak out any more money for myself. I had to use the remainder of the money. So I'm
Oh,
like,
you needed the money for the program expenses, and so the remainder is what you
yeah,
turned into an hourly rate.
yeah.
Okay,
Um,
because there was a finite amount of money that the grant was
right,
going to give. Okay,
right.
now I'm with you. Okay,
But for
and so you're
future clients,
wondering,
I should be
well,
capturing
A,
more of my time in a higher
yes,
rate. So
sure,
how do
yes.
I reconcile that with future clients, or like how do
Well,
I
future clients don't need to have any
they don't know?
awareness of
Okay.
what you were paid before.
Yeah.
People increase their rates on a daily basis. I've moved my rates up. I've moved my rates. I mean, I have sold my services at anywhere between $400 to $1,000 a month. I have like sold my services. I've tried every single one of those price points. I've gone all the way up and I've come back
Okay.
down. Now I think my rate is, I'm like, what is my rate now?
So
And
even with the same client, you just say,
yeah,
how
I
much
mean,
is your rate?
like, yeah, because I think like, oh, because you're going to be applying to this same grant provider for another grant, you're saying?
Potentially, but also I just want to like
Yeah, so I think that
get
what you
the
could
rate where it
say,
should.
and I think you can also just be honest sometimes of like, for instance, like I tried selling my services, like there was a period of time where I tried selling my services on a sliding scale that was predetermined and that the
Yeah.
client chose the point on the scale they were at. That backfired and every single person picked the bottom of the scale,
Mhm.
even though, to be like between you and me, even though I knew that some of those clients did not actually belong at the bottom of that scale.
Yeah.
And so I had to essentially like and I had people wanting to renew because like who wouldn't? That's like a killer deal. And I was like, honestly, I've like crunched the numbers, I've looked at it, I tried this thing. It was not sustainable. Like I can't pay my bills if everyone is at the bottom of the scale. I have to have some people in the middle. I need to have a few at the top. And right now that's not working. I have decided to reevaluate how this works and here are the new options. And like, yeah, I lost a few people, but also like I got new people paying the rate I needed to be paid. So like there's no reason you can't go back to those folks and be like, "Yep, I did it that way that time and now this is the way I'm doing it moving forward." This
Okay.
more fully captures like the variety of expenses or my hourly pay or whatever. Yeah,
Okay.
that's totally fine. Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
think it's a good reminder for all of us. You can always change your mind. You can always try something different. We're never stuck in doing it one way. Okay, so what I would like you to do, I know for some of us, like we are still working with kind of more theoretical numbers, and it's more of an intellectual exercise. But what I would like to encourage you to do, kind of how we were looking at in Wendy's budget of like her aspirational budget of like what she would like to be doing. If that feels like a good use of time, we can use that number. But essentially, what I want you to do is I want you to grab your gross monthly income. And so when we, your beautiful faces, let's come over to our other spreadsheet real quick. I should have had that one open. Let me take you on a tour. Oh, it was right there. Oh, and then I lost it. Here. So if we want to figure out, so I haven't put any projections for November, December, but let's say I want to project gross monthly income. What I'm going to do is take this number right here. Can you see my calculator if I put it up here? Can you see my calculator or no?
Yeah.
Am I sharing my whole screen? Okay. And I'm going to divide that by 10 because that's over the course of 10 months to give me an average of my gross monthly income. Do we follow that? Yes?
Yeah.
Thumbs
Why
up,
are you
thumbs
doing
middle.
10 instead of 12?
Because I only have 10 months of income in there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I don't have income in November or December in there. So
Okay.
that wouldn't give a fully accurate. So I'm going to round to 9,130. So I'm going to put here 9,130. I don't think we have anyone that has cost of goods, but if you had cost of goods sold, we can put that in here. If you had any capital expenses, we could put that in here. We don't have any of these things. And then I'm going to come back to my spreadsheet and look at my expenses. I was really hoping to get this like fully done for you guys before it's done. I'm such a bad role model. I was starting to work on it. So let's take this number. Let's just like do this for the, you have to keep moving your lovely faces all over the place. Let's take this number and multiply it by 2. Why aren't you multiplying by 2? My computer's like, help! I'm dying. What's going on, bud? Oh boy.
Sorry, what are you multiplying by 2?
I was just going to take my expenses and multiply them by 2 just for shits and giggles to like try and capture more of my expenses
Okay.
because I had not. Sorry, my computer's like, you have too much going on. It's like overheating. Hold on a second. Let's stop sharing for uno memento. Let me close some stuff out. I got too much stuff open. You know, when your computer starts to sound like it's running uphill and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, hold on.
Hey, Emily, can you give us editing access on the Gusto? We're viewers.
You can just make a copy.
Okay.
If you make a copy, you should be able to edit that. All right, let's just do this. We'll pull up.
That is something I've learned from this course. Making a copy.
Right?
I think it's
Isn't that a fun one?
it's great.
No, that's how all my curriculum is set up. And it has taken a little while to like train people. But at the end of the day, because I had originally had it set to like, because you can also set documents up to prompt making a copy, which is another fun little like Google trick. And but the problem with that is then anytime you try to go and look at the link yourself, you have to make a copy. And so then all of a sudden my drive would have like 15 of the same document. And I was like, this is not working. Okay, so I'm just going to double my expenses for right this second just to like try to capture a little bit more of what they might be. I'm going to divide by 12. Let's like round up and say, I feel like my expenses are a little higher than that, but maybe not. Let's say my expenses, let's just say my expenses are like 600. Let's do that. Okay, so are we with me? Have you put in your gross income? Have you put in, remember, this is monthly, okay? Monthly. Your monthly expenses. I'm like, is that, do I feel like that's accurate? I guess that's probably relatively accurate. I don't have very high expenses. Okay, so that gives me my net income, right? So gross is like before we've taken things away. Net is after we've taken away the expenses. Now we come down to our taxes. So it's going to pull this net income down. And then you can play with this percentage, but I would just keep it at 30%. And Wendy was talking about how like for self-employment, it's like 15 plus 15. I would suggest just keeping it at 30%. You're going to be pretty safe here. I don't know, Carrie, how that applies to an S corp. I'll be totally honest with you. My guess is that like your taxes, right? Your taxes are already withdrawn in your paychecks, Carrie, correct? So do you like save for taxes separately as well? How does that work?
Yeah, so I have the W-2 taxes taken out, and then I still have to pay, like I save and I pay quarterly estimated
Yep.
taxes based on last
Do,
year's tax return.
do you know what the percentage is?
I don't know it as a percentage. A
Okay.
lot,
Yeah.
it feels like.
A ton of money. Yes. So right now, what this is telling me that if I'm making about $9,000 a month and I have about $500 in expenses, this is something my accountant's always yelling at me. She's like, your expenses are too low. You need more expenses. You're getting taxed on too much money. So like that's something you can kind of explore. I don't really understand that all that much because I'm like, if my expenses were higher, I would just be taking home less money. But I guess there's like maybe some some um like ranges to probably be within would be my guess that would be beneficial. Um so this means I should be saving, let's just round up $2,600 a year for taxes. So if I do, where'd my little calculator go? And so Carrie mentioned paying her taxes quarterly. So let's do 2,600 divided by 4. There are 4 quarters. That means every quarter of the year, I should be writing a check for $650, probably minimum, I would guess, because I think I'm going to owe more than that in taxes. And I can send that as like if you're working with an accountant, they'll create little receipts for you that you mail in with your check. But you can also always just go to the IRS website. And you can go to this estimated taxes. Like is this? Yeah, so you can fill out this form and send it by mail, or you can pay online and you can direct pay. They will charge you if you pay with a credit card, just FYI. But if you can direct pay with a bank account and you're paying business tax. And so you can make payments this way. Yeah, go ahead, Wendy.
Are you are you required to do payments like quarterly payments or some timeline,
You
or
are
you do it all in one year?
required. 'Cause, 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 'cause
Just thinking in terms of budgeting
I think it's
expenses and putting into the budget.
yeah, so technically if you're gonna owe more than $1,000 in taxes, you should be making quarterly payments.
Okay.
So you can get fined for not making these quarterly payments, which I have done. If there's any way of doing this incorrectly, I've most likely done it. And so that's fine. And look, I'm still standing and I'm alive and only moderately broken in some small spaces. So don't worry if you're like, I've never done this before, or I've been making money this whole time and I've never paid taxes. And like, it's okay. Hang in there. Like, see if you can get an accountant to help you. That's always helpful. But you can pay these quarterly taxes. So this is what, for instance, I think I told you last year we got hit with an $8,000 tax bill, which I was like, oh, God. And that was really interesting. It was like, I have a part-time, like the work I do through Opportunities Credit Union, I'm technically a W-2 employee. And so it turned out that they were not withholding any money from my paycheck, and I didn't notice. So this is always a good reminder. If you have any type of like part-time or full-time work, you should look at your deductions and make sure that that makes sense. And so part of our tax bill was that they had not withheld money from my paycheck. So I back owed on those taxes. And then the other thing that happened was my partner shifted positions at his job, and his withholdings, for some miraculous reason, changed unbeknownst to us. He had also gotten a raise during that time. And so when we saw that his paycheck be bigger, we didn't question it. We just thought he had gotten a raise and we were like, sweet, more money for us. That was not the case. And so we owed, so it wasn't actually that I messed up anything in my business per se. It was more that these other two pieces of W-2s had actually, like, those withholdings had been wrong. And that's why we owed. There have been years that I either did not pay quarterly or I didn't pay enough quarterly and we have owed, and that sucked too. Now I've learned to just be really, the difference between a bookkeeper and an accountant. A bookkeeper is going to be on your ass like every single month, being like, did you do this? Did you do this? Give me this. I'm waiting on these numbers. An accountant is like not going to pursue you, most likely. You are going to have to pursue them. You're going to have all your stuff together. If you have this sheet, they're going to love you. If you come to them with this and be like, here are all my finances, they're going to be like, you're so easy, yay. But I've found, like, with my accountant, that I have to keep checking in. I got to check in every quarter and be like, this is how much I've made so far. This is what I'm paying in taxes. Do you think that's right? And she has this fun little spreadsheet that she puts all the info in. And like we check, and sometimes I'm on point, and other times she's like, ooh, you made more money than I expected you to make, or you made more money than you did last year. You need to pay a little extra in taxes this quarter or whatever. Does that make sense? I know this stuff is a little dense. Okay, so we know what we're saving for taxes. This is what I have left over. So I'm down to $59.71. Then we have a section for debt. Okay, so if you have any debt that you're paying back, whether that's student loans, credit card debt, show of hands, who's actively paying debt down? Yep. So we want to have, you can set this up as a minimum payment. Yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
Sorry, it was just that I'm paying debt too.
Oh, yeah. Okay, perfect. For some reason, there's like a difference between, I don't even know how to do those little emoji things you guys do. There's one that's like a hand raise, like I need something, because I have to like now lower your hand. And then there's another one that's like, I agree. I don't know how to distinguish between the two. Okay, so if I have debt payments for now, I would encourage you to just put in any minimum payments due. we can play with the numbers after we get them all in to like see if you can afford to pay more than the minimum, if that's helpful. Hold on, let me see the chat. Oh, sorry, Abby, if you missed this, you do. So it's set to view only, and what you can do is just make a copy and then you can edit that. Okay, so thankfully at this exact moment in time, I do not have debt. But let's say, for instance, although I think that's going to be too hard to calculate. So for instance, I'm really interested in, there's a master's and a PhD program that I'm really interested in, and I'm trying to decide whether or not I would apply for funding to get that covered and become a basically unpaid laborer for the university for a prolonged period of time, or if I would prefer to go into debt and like do my own thing. So if I chose that, I might put that in there to see like what would that look like to take on. This is actually a question I have of like, does it make more sense for me to try and work while I do a PhD on my own and not take funding, or does it make more sense for me not to work and take funding? I have an inclination that I can make more than they would pay me. And then the next section here is our savings plan. So this is like, if there are things, so for instance, I'll put these in here. The savings plans can be set up for, technically this is like savings for the business of like things you would like to do in the business. So for instance, I would really like to do a Google ad campaign. Speaking of Rose and like, what are all the things I can do for marketing? I have done Facebook and Instagram ads and had a good deal of success. I too have lots of internal like conflict with giving Mark Zuckerberg my money. I'm like, I can't stand that human and do not want to give him my money. And also, there's like, you know, there are these kind of, yeah, there are these moments of like contradiction that we all have to like navigate. For me, I feel like I would really like to try doing some Google, I have words, Google ads, and I have access to a $1,500 ad credit right now. And so I'm like, I'm interested. And you know how like last week we talked about the two different types of humans, like when we're thinking about sales and marketing, there's two different types of humans we need to reach. We had the people who have never heard of us before, and then we have the people who know us. Right now, the people who know me, I've pretty well saturated that bucket of humans in terms of sales. Like I've been talking to the current group of humans I have like on my email list for probably like 3 years. It's been 3 years since I've really done like an active marketing campaign. And I've noticed that I've started to like, you know, I've probably like asked as many humans who would maybe buy from me if they would buy. And so now, like, I really am, my business is very ready for trying to reach humans that don't know me. And I'm like positioned well to do that right now. I'm like far enough out of postpartum. I don't have any more surgeries coming up, hopefully. Like, I'm in a good place mentally to try and do something like this. Anyway, so I'm justifying my ads campaign. But let's say I look down there. I was looking on there and their recommended ad spend for me was $750 a month. So let's say I wanted to add, I don't know if I want to run, let's say I want to run ads for 6 months. I don't know that I want to dedicate to a year. So that's $4,500. And this is where, so let's just take these out. Let's just pretend I don't have these. This is where I can start to play with like, how fast do I want that $4,500? I think like it would probably work for me to try and pay that off each month of the 6 months it's running, right? That would be like my hope is that like I don't have to wait and I can start doing that now. So that tells me like, essentially I would like to be able to spend $750 a month. This brings me down to um 5,221. And then this line item right here, so line 38, this should be coming from your personal budget that we did on week 1. That's why I asked you to do it, is to figure out how much money do you need to make every month, right? And so that's where like we have to have that number. Otherwise, the rest of this is really just a thought experiment. If we don't know how much money you need to live, then the rest of this is kind of like, "Meh." So currently, like, and it'll be interesting for me to see if I go back through and check these expenses to see if this is true. If all of this is accurate, right now I do pay myself $4,500 a month. And this is telling me that even with the ad spend, that I have a $721 surplus of my revenue. That's enough money that I might want to change some things. Like I'm okay with a little bit of a surplus, like a little bit of cushion, right? Because like maybe not every month I make 9,000, maybe, whatever, rainy day, things happen. But with a 700, first of all, this tells me like, fuck yeah, I can do these ad spend. Like that's pretty great. Okay, we'll do that. I think that's a good idea. And then this also shows me that like I would probably be safe to give myself like maybe a $200 raise. Like let's see what this looks like. So that brings me down to a $500 surplus. Yeah, I mean, this part comes down to like your risk aversion, right? Like how risky are you? Technically, you could bring this down to 0, right? Technically, I could pay myself I could pay myself 5,200, and still do this ad spend. That doesn't feel super comfortable to me. I'd be like, what if I messed up somewhere along the way? What if like not all my numbers totally captured everything? Like I wouldn't want to start to like slowly dig myself into a rut. Um, but like this tells me that I have like a little bit of wiggle room. I could also like maybe, one thing, if I wanted to be like risk averse and really futuristic thinking, let's turn this back to 45, what I'm currently doing. And let's say like, so my laptop is at least 5 years old. And we know how long computers last these days, like 5 seconds. So maybe like maybe I want to be proactive and I want to start saving for a laptop. And I'm a little snotty, annoying human. And I know I want another Apple and I don't want to pay for something cheaper. So I'm going to budget for 2,500. Right. And so let's say I'm like, what does it look like to do that over the next, maybe I want a computer in 2 years. Maybe I want to be able to I'm banking on my computer lasting another 2 years. Maybe I want to bank on it like lasting a year and a half, right? So I can start to play with that and see, okay, I should be saving about $140 a month in order to get a computer in a year and a half. Thoughts, questions? Is anyone able to do this calculation and would they like to show us? Does anyone like have the numbers and feel like they could put this together?
I kind of BS some numbers, but I can show you.
Yeah, let's do it. And I really do like, I totally get it for folks that are like, I just don't have these numbers yet to like for Rose, like you just don't know. You don't know what the income is yet. But like the fact that you know these things exist and know that this is what you're working towards, to me, is like a huge advantage. Like I had to learn all this backwards, right? and like make a ton of mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, go for it.
Do you see the Gusto screen?
No, I don't see anything.
Do it again. Better?
Yes.
Okay. Um,
You know
so
where
I
it has
threw
the
in the
percentage?
aspirational.
You know where it has the percentage? It says like 100% on your toolbar. Can you move it to one? Yeah, you're almost there to the left. It's like 5 over from the left.
Uh,
So the 100, yeah. Can you change that to 150?
sure.
There we go.
So I just put in my aspirational income just to see
Perfect.
what would happen, but I didn't
Yep.
include any of the fringe stuff like health insurance.
Yep.
Business expenses, I don't know, but they're not high right now, so I just estimated 500.
Hmm.
Then student loans, so it's doing the 30% tax calculation. Student loans, I'm in deferment right now and hope to have them canceled. So that might be a little
Nice.
bit high, but I threw in a number for student loans. And then I might want to move
Awesome.
towards purchasing a truck, and I have my eyes on a used truck from a colleague that I think I could get. I really
Cool.
should have liability insurance, and I'm budgeting over a year to see. And it would be good to have a high speed, high volume printer. And I just did a
Nice.
quick Amazon search and pushed
Yep.
that number up a little teeny bit. So that's coming up with an additional 500 of savings per month.
Love that.
And this one, I'm not quite sure if this is the right number, but I estimated
Hmm.
uh, from budget. And then that leaves me a surplus, but that's
A
with a
lot
super
of
high
money.
starting salary that I don't yet earn.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Good. I love it. But it shows that like if you can meet that 7,800 or whatever the gross is that you're hoping to meet, like if you can meet that, there's definitely room to give yourself a raise, and there's room to do some other things too, probably. Yeah. So it shows that like your projection for what you would like to be grossing is good and accurate and within the realm.
yeah,
Yeah. I sometimes people and just to like be fully candid, off like in previous years when folks have shared this spreadsheet, lots of folks have had negatives. Like I do not earn enough currently to cover my basic needs. So like that is very common and like not surprising. So if that happens and you're like, so I have a negative $5,000,
yeah.
that's like
If I would
that's
have used
totally normal.
actual income, it definitely
Exactly.
would be negative. Yeah.
Yep. 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 Um, wow, I didn't realize we're like already at time. Okay, so all right, so you have that. Let's come back over here. We're just gonna move. This slide deck was not necessary, right? Let's see. That's the census. Yeah, so I think, like I said, if your personal need number is more than your owner access number, this is where we have to like some things you can think about is like, can we change the business expenses at all? Sorry, I just like refuse to operate in this lens. There we go. We can look at like, can we change any of the business expenses even? And like also think about like, could I take a temporary hiatus from any of these expenses? Like, could I not have this expense for 3 months or 6 months? Or, like Rose has gotten incredibly creative with finding platforms that are free to access to do the business, right? And so, and I think like we're one of the there's lots of downfalls of like online business at this stage. just in my experience of like it's become a pretty saturated space. But there's also a lot of upsides, like because there's so many of us trying to do things online, there are a lot of different tools that you can pick and choose from. And I think those platforms are having to get really competitive with like how they get more customers. And so that means offering free plans, it means offering like discounts, it means offering things cheaper. So I do think we have that on our side a little bit right now. You can also see if like there's any way to navigate changing your debt payments, like if you're not paying the minimum and it makes sense to pay the minimum for a certain period of time so that you can increase your owner take home pay. Maybe you just aren't in a place where you can save for things right now, and that's okay too. There was a long time, you know, the like financial, essentially the old white men who used to talk to us about finances all the time used to say that you should have at least 3 months of expenses, including your salary, in a savings account. I'm like, that would be like over $15,000 in for me personally, just sitting in a savings account. There's probably no universe where that's going to be true for me. Like, I'm probably just never going to have that big of a lump sum of money sitting in a bank account that I'm not touching. Um, for me, I'm like trying to get to about 2 months of savings, and I'm really close. And it's taken me years to get there. Like, it's not like I did it overnight. But eventually, like it would be good if we could get to a place where you have a savings account, or you're contributing to some sort of retirement account. Like that would be ideal. It's okay if that's not today or even this next year. Um, and then also like seeing if there are any personal expenses that you can get flexible with to see if we can change that number. The only thing you really can't touch in the equation is your taxes. Like we can't be like, hi IRS, can I just like pay 15 this year? Like that's not gonna work. So keep that, don't fudge that 30%. Just try to play with the other numbers in the meantime. Okay, so we had our announcements. I just want to leave you with this, just one more plea to please, please, please fill this out if you don't mind. It really won't take you long. I think it's like 6 questions total. I'll throw it in the chat just one more time. And yeah, I would love to do more series like this one. I've tried. Oh, that's smart, Rose. Yeah, Rose said that one of your peers used a software when it was in the beta testing to get access for free. There's also, I had a friend that they were in the beta testing phase and they were giving lifetime access for like it was like $500 and you could use this platform for life. And so like I'm like, that was a good deal. Like that was a very smart move to get in on it because now she doesn't have to pay for a course platform ever again if she doesn't want to. Like that's pretty sweet. So thinking about, keeping an eye out for things like that. So yeah, so I would love to like do another. I really like doing these series. I think it's fun to like have an opportunity to develop a relationship a little bit deeper than just a single workshop. And I would really like to do more of them. And I would love to hear what you would like me to do them on. So if it's marketing, if it's sales, if it's more money stuff, if it's, internal systems, like whatever it is. If it's more like mindset stuff, we can talk about that. But yeah, any feedback you can give would just be incredibly helpful. And the very last thing I will ask, one more thing. If you would be so kind as to leave a review of Money Foundations, you can do that there. My managers do look at this, and we also use these reviews to submit for more grant funding for programs like this. So if we can kind of showcase like how these series have an impact, that makes a huge difference. It does not have to be like super wordy. Yes, Wendy, I'll put this all in an email as well. It doesn't have to be super wordy, just like something from your heart. goes a really long way. So I appreciate that. All right. I can hang out for like maybe 5 minutes if anyone has a question, anything, thoughts, takeaways.
Emily, I just wanted to say thank you. I may not have gotten all my homework done, but this has been a great
Yeah,
series, and I do intend to finish it all later. But I just appreciate
totally.
all of it. It's been great. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah. How did you find us?
Um, Somebody recommended you on like a small business thing a very long time ago, and like you were a tab on my computer forever. And then I started following, I started getting your like newsletter, and then I don't know, I just don't always read it because I get busy. But then I read this one and saw
Totally.
this, thought it was awesome, and signed up.
Okay, cool. I'm like, I always love it when like folks that are in Vermont, I'm like, I get it. I see how you found me. But folks outside of Vermont, I'm like, where did you come from? Um, which is great. I love it. Thanks,
Yeah,
Gary.
Mhm.
same here. Thank you. Thank you very much. I've been
Yeah.
telling many, I think I told you this. I've been telling many people about you. So hopefully
Oh,
you'll
thanks, Joanne.
get more coming your way.
Thanks,
Um,
Joanne. I appreciate that. Yeah, referrals go a long way. And that's true for like all of you as well, like look out for each other, refer folks for each other. It means a lot. Yeah.
yeah, y'all are doing amazing stuff. Thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. Right. Thanks, Joanne. Any final questions, takeaways?
No, thanks for the workshop, and I'll see you at the office hours next week.
Sounds great. I know. This is not goodbye. It's just see you soon. I love
I
it.
told my mother-in-law as well, so I'm hoping
Oh,
she
good. Good.
actually does what you do, but she's in Florida, where she wants to do what you do. She's
Yeah,
starting her
yeah,
to
yeah.
do what you do.
That's awesome. I
To
love
help
that. We're in
seniors.
Florida.
She lives in Plantation outside of Fort Lauderdale.
Hmm.
And she wants people who are retired to be re-inspired to start small businesses.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Very cool.
But yeah, see you later.
Awesome. See you soon, Rose.
Bye.
Thanks. Go for it, Wendy. Oh, I think you're on mute.
I was just gonna say thank you. This has been really helpful to
Yeah,
like get
totally.
all my information in one place and be
Yeah.
forward thinking. But also I'll do my intake soon between get out the vote stuff and writing
Take your
my
time.
grant indicators for BBF. But it's coming.
Don't worry about it. Take your time and yeah, just do your best. Oh,
Okay.
I'll just make sure
How's
everyone
your recovery going? Are you on the upswing?
hanging in there. Yeah, it's getting like I finally today's the first day I'm gonna like drive the car and like go somewhere. Today is 2 weeks. So I think it's mostly just like I've like had a lot of oh, hold on. I'm like, I don't need to record this.
Yeah. Sorry.